welcome to the Old Ducky. Tonight we're experiencing a new take on passion in the 30s in Paris, lovingly produced by Matt Haus and accompanied by the hugely talented saxophonist Phillip Holder. A little etiquette before I introduce them. The soiree will begin at 7:30, and for all of you who know Matt, that means 7:30. There is a small powder room here in Old Ducky, but 4 bathrooms can be found at Nikos next door. Please make use of them before the show starts. And please fill your glasses, enjoy your starters, as there will be no service during the soiree. The lights will be dimmed and we will be transported to the cafe in Saint-Germain. There were no mobiles then, so we'd like to try and follow that rule. And the most important thing we're going to all try and do is to be quiet. Enjoy your starters. It is a great honor to introduce Matt and Phillip. Matt is not just a customer, he is a dear friend. He goes way back beyond the Old Ducky days. He frequented Le Canard and was a loyal supporter of Freedom, my mother-in-law. The only person Matt wanted to be a part of this was Phillip Holder. He is a standalone musician whose good looks, I told you I'd say, and signature, cappello, which means his cap, only add to his allure. I could not do either of them justice, so instead we have summarized their CV for you to read at your own leisure. I present the inimitable Matt and Phillip.
Go, Phil.
That's me, wonderful, beautiful. Is everybody happy?
Yes.
I can't see the crowd in the back. We need some naughty people here. Somebody that can clap and join us. Okay? So always feel free to join us.
What do you think of my pianist?
Stop joking. Come on, this
I'm
is
looking for
serious.
his lips.
People are paying a lot of money here. This was not in the script. Holder. Now you know why I love this man. Oh, Phillip, you can sit down just for a moment. There's lots more coming.
It's brilliant.
Good evening.
No problem.
Are you going to sit now? Welcome to the Café de Flora Saint-Germain, East Bank of Paris, in the 1930s. Now, of course, this is not the East Bank of Paris, but it's the closest we have in South Africa to that. And right at the beginning, I just want to say it's my pleasant duty to take you there to Paris, play some music, but I couldn't have done this without two people. First is Marina, sitting over there. You know, she did say I go back a long way with the family. I'm not going to go there because that would take half an hour or an hour in itself. But when I came to suggesting a soiree like this, Marina immediately grabbed it. She said, yeah, let's do it. I said, but you haven't heard me play, you haven't heard me talk, you haven't heard Phil. She said, Matt, let's do it. Thank you for trusting me. And the other one is my friend Phil, this man with a hat. I'm still not sure I know him so well. I'm not sure if he takes his hat off whether he's got hair or not. I really don't know, you know. So, you know, I've always had this philosophy, whatever I did in life, whether it was medicine, whether it was my business career, whether it was music, I always surrounded myself and associated myself with people far better than I am, because you can only win. And for some reason, Phil has agreed to play with me. Phil, thank you. The fact that I can share a stage with this man gives me the most amazing pleasure. He played for Arnold Schwarzenegger's party twice, for Mandela's birthday party. He played in New York, in Chicago, and now he's playing with little old me. Thank you, Phil. Back to Paris. Let me just take you there. Firstly, let me explain to you, I don't want to sound presumptuous or arrogant, but does everybody know what a soiree is? What's the difference between a concert and a soiree? I had to look it up myself. A soiree has got 4 specific components. The first one is that it's a meeting of not more than 70 people. After that, it becomes a concert. Not more than 70 like-minded people. It doesn't mean that the people being like-minded have the same opinions. But I think we qualify. We about 50 here tonight, I think. And your role is to be part of the soiree. Thanks for clapping just now. And I did say you are allowed to throw things at me and disagree with me. And I said this is the second time we're doing this particular soiree. The first time was in February, and I said, oh, you can throw things at me. The next thing, a brick was thrown here. But we won't go there, Marina. But tomatoes are fine. The second thing about a soiree, it's got to be in a place that they serve good food.
Yeah.
Do we qualify with that?
Yes.
Good. The third thing is that there is discourse, discussion about philosophical issues, about history, and we're going to do that. It's my pleasure to do that tonight. So we qualify on that, and on the last thing, there should be some music.
Yeah.
So we got that.
Yo.
You know, my daughter's very loud tonight. Thank you, darling.
Thank you, Dad.
So we have a soiree. Okay, now let's go to Paris. Did you know that Paris was almost as old as Rome 2,000 years ago? And here's the thing. If someone can tell me the name of Paris in the first 1,000 years, since Caesar in Rome took over France, what was Paris's first name? Without going to your telephones. You're not allowed to do that. If you can tell me in the next 5 seconds the first name of Paris, I'll buy you some wine. Okay, 5 seconds gone. It was called Lutetia. Yes. And in 958, the name was changed to Paris. Interesting. Let's go to 1860. I'm German born, I don't sound like it, but I am. And there was a guy that we know about in Germany called Otto von Bismarck. And he was quite a character. He was the emperor, he was chancellor. And France had 2 areas on the east of France which bordered on Germany called Lorraine and Alsace. And Bismarck wanted it. Very similar to Russia and the Donetsk in Ukraine at the moment. And they had what was called the Franco-Russian-Prussian War. And Bismarck took Alsace and Lorraine back. That war only lasted a year. The importance of that, and I'm not here to lecture you on history, but the importance of that is that after that, France felt, somehow, the people in France felt the tension went, and they started an era for the next 40, 50 years called La Belle Epoque. Now, I've been fortunate or unfortunate the last time, every time I do this, because I haven't got the French accent, every time I do this, at this table, there's a lady that speaks French. And tonight we've got Lindsay there. The other night there was, remember Marina? And every time I say the word wrong, I just cringe. But please forgive me. La Belle Epoque. La Belle, Bella, beauty. Epoque, the era. The era of beauty. And for 40, 50 years, things happened in Paris. In 1989, the Eiffel Tower was put up for the World Fair in Paris. They had a beautiful time. In the year 9, change of the century, 1900, they had the Expo, the Paris Expo. People were dancing in the streets. People were happy for many years, for a whole generation. And then, of course, the war came, the First World War. Things changed. And there was a fundamental change, because we're going to talk about some existentialists just now. And I'll explain what I think existentialism means. After the war, when the Versailles Treaty was signed just up the road from Paris, there was a lady from America. She had an idea. She said, the French people are suffering. The Germans had occupied France for some time. And she said, I'm going to open a bookshop called Shakespeare's Bookshop. Do you know about that, Lindsay? Your face tells me a story. Yes. And she opened it on the left bank of Paris. Now I have to just describe to you my understanding of the left and the right bank. By the way, who hasn't been to Paris? Oh, so there are a few. I mean, you can't go everywhere, can you? I haven't been to the South Pole. Maybe you'll go there after tonight. There is a river going through Paris called the Seine. If you stand on the Seine River and it flows to the west, everything on your left is the left bank. Everything on your right is the right bank. And they're two different places. And just to kind of explain, on the right bank you have the Louvre, the Place de Concorde, you have the Arc de Triomphe, you have Montmartre, Sacré-Cœur, you have Champs-Élysées, all on the right bank. On the left bank you have people like us, bohemians, thinkers, people who cause trouble sometimes. And that's where this lady from America, Sylvia Beach was her name, opened up the Shakespeare bookshop. And after the war, a lot of people started thinking about life. Don't we all think about life? What's the purpose in life? I mean, it's natural. And they started going, a few people, to this bookshop, and they started going to a few restaurants on the left bank and started talking to each other. And that was the beginning of the existential movement, the modern existential movement in Paris. Now, the favorite Paris calls its suburbs arrondissement. Arrondissement. Thank you. Now, the suburbs, Paris is divided into 20 suburbs or arrondissements. Now, Saint-Germain is where all this happened. In the 6th arrondissement. The Latin Quarter was in the 7th. And there were two restaurants, Café de Flore, not to be mixed up with Florian Cafe in St. Mark's Square in Venice. And people like Jean-Paul Sartre, Henry Miller, and Anais Nin, we're going to talk about them just now. And I promise you the history is almost finished. And the other cafe was Le Deux Magots. Maybe, I don't know how you say it, but they were both in Saint-Germain, and in the middle was the Abbey of Saint-Germain, for those of you who have been there. And Hemingway, Picasso, all the left-wing kind of people went to Café Magot, and all the people that the more right-wing thinkers went to Café de Flore. And that's where it all happened. That started also the cafe society, where people came and met. People today, unfortunately, okay, now I've got to be careful, because my daughter's here again. Social media didn't exist. Nothing existed. They lived in the present. They talked to people across the table, because that's all that matters. And what did they do? They wrote. Everything they wrote with a free hand. 1930. And they wrote these books that are here. And these things have lasted. What does modern society do? They text and they do these things, and it goes into, what do they call it, cyberspace? It's lost forever. I believe that so much good, Twitter, TikTok, all these things, Instagram, I'm very anti that. But the point I want to make is that by writing, by concentrating on the present, these books will live on, and the relationships will have been documented. And during this hour, I'm going to talk about 3 sets of relationships between 2 different people, not always men. Anais didn't mind if it was male or female, and you know, we'll come to that later. But I'm going to talk about 3 sets of relationships, but in between we will have some music. So that introduces us. Can we now all imagine that we in Café de Flore? I've done my best with the history not to bore you. And now I'm going to ask Maestro Phil, where are you? Oh. We're going to play Summertime. We're going to play, what else are we going to play? Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh, I like that. Oh, it's
And
lovely.
then my children know I can't sing, but when I've had a few glasses, I can sing a little bit. And I'm going to try and do the Joe Cocker one, You Are So Beautiful. So I hope you enjoy the music, but before I go anywhere, I want to wish happy birthday to 2 people here. Lindsay, happy birthday to you. And before we play happy birthday, Annie, happy birthday to you.
You can help me sing happy birthday?
We have to start charging for this.
Where's the birthday? You're going to sing along. You're going to sing. 1, 2, 1,
Summertime.
Oh, it's my bass. I love this.
Our boy Matty on the piano.
Take a breath. Take a breath. Here we go. And not even ESCOM could mess that up. It took a long time tonight, didn't it?
Thanks to you.
To kick in. Have you got enough diesel? Fly me to the moon. Lovely too. You'll notice these things are largely unrehearsed. So Phil and I play off each other. We play off each other. So thank you for your participation as well. Shall we try this Joe Cocker thing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you sing.
Oi,
He's not swearing
Sing,
at
man.
you. Well, my ex-girlfriend liked this song. It's about Joe Cocker.
You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. Can you see? You're everything that I hope for. You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. Can you see? You're everything that I hope for. You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me.
Not bad, hey? You can.
That's just a bit of goosebumps.
Emotional.
I know.
You all still awake.
Yes.
So let's talk about the first couple, Jean-Paul Sartre. He was one of the best known existentialists. Now what I need to do is just explain what I understand about existentialism. Number one, it's all about a purpose-driven life, meaning in life. That's the fundamental thing. It goes right down to biblical times, to all the theisms. Meaning and a purpose in life is what we all need and what we all look for. That's rule number one in existential thinking. The other one is choices. Everything about life is about the choices that we make. Some people, most of us, governments, countries, married couples, always blame the other person. It's always somebody else's fault. But the existentialist understood that everything, it's not about what's happening outside, it's about how we respond to it. And the choices, it's called an internal locus of control. So no matter what happens, our lives are dominated and defined by the choices we make. Those two things, a purpose-driven life and choices. Sartre said human beings are condemned to freedom. Funny words. Condemned to freedom. Because from the time that we have cognitive abilities, ability to think, everything that we do is a result of our own choices. And Sartre wrote his key book, his seminal book, and here it is. Being and Nothingness. That's him on a bridge on the river saying, smoking his pipe. Everybody that knew him said he never bathed, he was always smelling. I wasn't there. But he was a brilliant writer. Has anybody ever read this book?
No.
Lindsay? Not even you?
That collection is my reading list.
Oh.
From Session, which is another.
You mean you've done it or you want to do it?
I was given that list to read.
Really?
And
So you're not going to steal my books?
I'm not going to steal your books, but it's really tempting.
No one has read this. Let me tell you, I've tried 17 times. I've never got past page 1. I've tried to read from the back, from the middle. Is that okay, Rena? Yeah, all good.
Isn't that okay?
It's so difficult. I've never understood it, but I keep it and I keep trying. Because he was the key existential thinker on the left bank in the 1930s. Of course, now I mustn't get mixed up. He wrote many other things. He wrote plays, he wrote short stories, but that's what he's known for. But I want to tell you something more interesting perhaps about his relationship with a lady who was known as the first feminine, what do you call these people, feminists that, there's a word for it, Germaine Greer, no, it's gone from my head. The first feminist, modern day feminist, was Simone de Beauvoir. And she had a relationship with Sartre. They both went to the Sorbonne University, also on the left bank, and they both were top of the class. Some years Sartre won the prize for being the best student, other years Simone de Beauvoir did. But the fascinating thing is they went to the Café de Flora and talked and talked and talked. They fell in love. But they all had other lovers. And it's a theme that goes through the 1930s in Paris. There was the morality was, the new morality was not something that we would appreciate. Well, I'm not sure, I'm scared to ask. Maybe I'll ask at the end. They wrote love letters to each other. So Simone de Beauvoir's book, The Second Sex, this is the thick book. That, if you want to know about the emancipation of women, this is the book to read. She wrote many letters to Sartre. Here is another book, Witness to My Life. 870 letters, beautiful love letters to Jean-Paul Sartre. But believe it or not, she, at the same time, now remember, well, I haven't said it yet, but I'm going to say it now. In the 1930s, women were in charge. women, maybe they're still in charge. Robbie, are you listening? It was Anaïs Nin, I think, who said it, but it could have been Simone de Beauvoir, said, women choose the man that they love the most. Women choose. The men accept the women who love them the most. That was how it was. So while she was carrying on with Sartre, and it's my job also tonight to introduce you to these wonderful books, she was having an affair with someone in Chicago called Nelson Algren. And Nelson Algren was a writer in Chicago. And all of their letters, over 1,000, are contained in this book, Beloved Chicago Man. All of Simone de Beauvoir's letters to Nelson Algren here. While she was writing letters to Sartre. Oh, you think it's nice? I'm not, there's a TV program by Dennis, the judge. It's called Judge for Yourself. I don't know if any of you see it on TV. Whether it's nice or not, I'm not going to, I'm not going to comment on that because I'm not here this evening to take sides. I think the important part was that these two existentialists, if you read the letters they wrote to each other, and they, by the way, had an arrangement to have an open relationship. Kevin, what do you think of that? Just to wake you up. And remember, I'm not making this up. This is all documented, so I'm not giving any moral stories. But Nelson Algren, Simone de Beauvoir, Sartre were an item. And they were there every single day of the week for years and years in the 1930s. So that's the first couple that I want to talk about, and now I'm going to ask Phil, we're going to have some more music before you all get bored, and then we'll go to the next couple, Henry Miller and Anaïs Nin. Have you heard about Anaïs Nin? Cashroll made a perfume called Anaïs. But that's the next thing. In the meantime, we're going to play, or we're going to do some French songs.
Are you doing Tchaikovsky?
No, only. I have to say, after the last one we did like this, Marina said, but Matt, can you play some classical music as well? And I said, yes, I can, but it's at home I've got a Steinway grand piano. This little Yamaha electronic thing, it's impossible to play Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto on this, but I'm going to try, believe it or not.
And stay.
But after we're going to do the French thing first. Yeah, we're going to do the French thing. You want me to do the classics first? Oh, one. Okay, well, we're going to just play it by ear then. Well, then I will play you an arrangement of Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto, but it has a different touch. I'm not making excuses. It's terribly important for a musician, and I know there are a few people in the audience, Nikki, who play the piano. Nikki, please bear with me, but it's a beautiful song. Do you want me to play this now, and then we'll do the French ones?
Matt was going to play air on the G string, but
hello?
got a bit of a bad time.
What's happened to this?
Here we go.
Yeah. If I am going to play a flute, there was Bach, apart from his chorales, he also did a nice little one called Air on a G string.
Oh, I
Have you
love
heard about
it.
that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just play a few bars of that, and then Beethoven wrote 9 piano sonatas, and one is called the Pathétique. And all of Beethoven's sonatas consisted of 3 movements. The second one of the Pathétique is also a beautiful song. I'll muddle along and see how. If I don't get it right, Phil, then we'll go to the next thing. Thank you. Well, then I think I'll play Air on a G string.
Yeah, good.
Well, I lost it here. I wonder who noticed it. And then Beethoven's second from his Pathétique.
My daughter plays.
that was your request. So, Henry Miller was known, this is the other couple, Henry Miller and Anais Nin. Now remember, not Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller married Marilyn Monroe. This is Henry Miller. He wrote, all his books were banned until about 30, 40 years ago. Here's some of them. Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer. He wrote a trilogy, Sexus, Nexus, and Plexus. Okay? And he was the master of pornography those days. You may then ask, why have these books lasted? And there are various reasons for that. But he was an existentialist of note. He wrote about things the way he saw them. How many of us are scared to share with other people what goes on in our heads? Yeah.
Dangerous.
I mean, there is something compelling about wearing your heart on your sleeve. And Henry Miller wrote about things that we all kind of identify with, but we're too scared, collective. And only 70, 80 years later, Henry Miller's books were published and became very, very popular for his honesty. He refused the Nobel Prize for writing smut. In 1963, he was offered the Nobel Prize. He refused it. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is Albert Camus. That's the next one. Camus got the Nobel Prize. Two of these existentialists got the Nobel Prize, and Henry Miller refused it. Now, his relationship with Anais Nin was, I said to Marina, maybe we should have said this is 2 to 18, because my granddaughter was saying, but Grandpa, can't I come? I said, and my daughter said, no, Grandpa says you can't come to the Soiree. Anais Nin was even worse than Henry Miller in terms of, she was perverted. Let me just tell you, she slept with anybody that she came across. Her psychologist, the therapist, slept with him. She slept with her father. Now, why did she do that? She explains it in this book, that her father deserted her when she was a child. And the only way she could get her own back was by putting him in and then leaving him. She slept with Henry Miller's wife, June Mansfield. You may have heard of seen a film called Henry and June. This is the book, based on Henry Miller and his wife, June Mansfield. Anais Nin had a relationship with them. She had a long-standing husband called Hugo Goyler, and she also had a cousin, Eduardo, living in the house, slept with him all. Anyway, I think the point I'm trying to make is this was the mindset. And she ended her life in America, Anais Nin, lecturing at Ivy League universities, a sought-after lecturer. And some of her books, there is Henry and June, The Erotic Life of Anais Nin here. You can read all about it. I'm not going to say too much more, but I think I've given you a flavor of the kind of...
That's spicy.
I beg your pardon?
That's spicy.
Spice. Spicy. Well, that's why you're here, Lindsay. And my granddaughter is not here.
That's a perfect
Thank goodness.
But remember, in case, I mean, we're going back 93 years to 1931. We're going back into a different era where things were completely different. So that's all I'm going to say about Miller and Ninham. Can you still get that perfume, Anais Cashel? I've never smelled it really, but you can. Yeah, it was very popular in this day. Now, Philip and I are going to try some French songs. So, Phil was telling me the other day, he says, but Matt, all these French songs, they're the same. But, you know, when you hear that beautiful French accent, it's like heaven opening its window. So, we're not, no, I'm not going to, no, I think I've had my day with the other one, but we're going to try and do one or two French numbers, and then we're going to enter the last bit of the program. So Phil, what chanson? Oh, I love Paris in the springtime.
If your medical doctor said, I love plaster of Paris, say, Paddy.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That's the proper way to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to sing that?
No, but we're going to do I love Paris, but let me do the intro.
Love these two together. That's so cute. Oh, I love
Just gonna clap right.
That was called plaster of Paris.
No, rejected.
Okay, now we're gonna go.
Ra-ta-ra-ta-ra. Ra-ta-ra-ta. I'm gonna sing ra-ta-ra-ta-ra, okay? I'll sing a sleep ra-ta-ra-ta.
Ra-ta-ra-ta-ra.
One, two. One more time. Last time. One, two, three.
La vie en rose. Yeah, now he doesn't remember Phillip, so let me just show him what it goes like.
Way before my time.
See, they call it jazz. You can do anything in jazz. It doesn't matter because if you play out of tune, it's supposed to be what we call discordant or extended chords, they say. The last one, Albert Camus, he's my favorite. Now, he was born in Algeria and then he moved to France, and he was part of that 1930s group. And he had lots of fights with Sartre. Sartre was all about politics, and Camus was all about morality. And if you leave with one thing in your, it's this book, The Plague. Has anyone read The Plague?
No.
I've read it many times. You've read it, Lindsay. It's an allegory. It's an extended metaphor. And I think they're enjoying it in the kitchen. Thanks, Felix. Just ask them for 5 more minutes. An allegory is when you write a story, but it actually illustrates something else far more importantly. And this story, The Plague, was about the bubonic plague in a little town on the coast of Algeria called Oran. And it's about a time when the plague meant that families were caught outside because they all went into quarantine. And when I'm speaking about this, I remember just the last few years where we've all had the same with COVID. People left and couldn't come back because they were not allowed in. Remember, there was this lockdown here, people were in Port Elizabeth and Cape Town, they couldn't come back here. It was very similar to that. And it rang an important bell with me that in 1947, when he wrote this, he talked about something, very similar to what we experienced in COVID. It's a book that I urge you to read. It describes, it goes into the very heart of people's emotions when they were separated from their loved ones, how we respond to stress and all those. It could have been written exactly about COVID. And he wrote other books, The Rebel, he wrote The Outsider. He was an outsider. Camus was a very good soccer player as well. He played for the Algerian First League and First League in Paris, just by the way. A very interesting man. But he was married to a pianist, a musician. And then he fell in love with a film star, Maria Casals. It sounds all of these people could never stay true to one person. And Casals and him had an on-off relationship because he didn't want to leave his wife. And it's got a sad side to this because they were very much in love. And they had a gap of about 9 or 10 years in the 1940s when they didn't see each other. And they decided in December 1959, which is not so long ago, for me at least, not so long ago. 59, I was 10 years old. Yes. No, I don't think you were born yet. In 1959, he was holidaying in Provence, in the south of France. And Maria Casals was in Paris. And of course there were no cell phones, nothing those days. But they had telephones, and she phoned him and said to him, please let us try and see if we can start again. And please come for New Year. And Camus said, yes, I'm going to come. I'm in, it was near Avignon. I'm not sure if it was Avignon or Saint-Remy or somewhere there in Provence. And he was with a friend. And he said to his friend, I'm going back to Paris to see Maria. And that was like the 29th of December. And the friend said, look, if you catch the train, they didn't have the TGV those days either. Let's drive back together. And Camus was petrified of driving. If he was in South Africa at the moment, I think he would have been even more worried. But he went to the station and he bought a train ticket to put it in his pocket. And what happened is they drove through the night on the 30th of December 1959. And he wrote a letter to Maria. He posted it before they got into the car. And he said, I can't wait to see you, my superb. Those were his words. I can't wait to see you, my superb. Through the night, they drove, and 18 kilometers outside Paris, the southern border of Paris, the driver, it wasn't him, he was sitting next door, he drove into a tree and they were both killed. And a few days later, the letter arrived, and Maria read it. A very sad story. But the play, some of other of Camus' books, I recommend them to you. That is the end of my talking. We're going to end with some music, and then we're going to have the main course. Maria Verena. I want to thank you and how you manage to keep the main course fresh and cooking and everything, and all the good guys in the kitchen. I don't know how you do it. I have to say, I did say at the beginning that this place is the closest thing to Café de Flore in South Africa, for lots of reasons. But this place is better. It's actually better than the Café de Flore because it has marina. So this is our last set. And we're going to play Georgia on your mind. Georgia. And then we're going to end with one or two jolly numbers, Cotton Fields and maybe Hey Jude. And that will be the end of us. Georgia on your mind. When I was a little baby, my mama wanted to rock Thank you for being a great audience. I really enjoyed it. I hope you have too, and enjoy the main course. Thank you, Marina.